Greetings and welcome to another video in our VoiceAttack, the Elite VA plugin and Elite Dangerous series. In this episode we can look at some commands where we can query our cargo hold and what we have in it. I've made these commands up ahead of time. It was just easier that way, and I found a few oddities that took a while to nail down. So you might want to get a cup of tea and a biscuit before we carry on. So let's have a look at the commands to begin with. We will need the cargo.txt file for this so we can check what's in our cargo and also get the variables needed. You can see in the cargo file I've got some cargo already, and which we needed to take account of because the plugin doesn't know about that. I have mentioned it to the dev, but they hope that they can fix it or do something about it later. But I had to do some jiggery pokery, which I'll show you later. And also, limpets are called drones internally. So that's something else I had to take into account. But we can see that we've got 4 items in the cargo hold by the cargo inventory length. And it goes from 0 to 3 because it always starts counting from 0. We have the name, in this case localized name, how many we have on it, and whether that's stolen or not. And we've got the same for the other 3 items. If we go into the profile, I can show you the commands. So we have these commands here that I've made. And I've added in to the cargo event from the plugin some actions which we'll go through in a minute. But the first very, very simple one is how much cargo do I have? And all that does is it will check that variable there, the cargo count, and then speak it and write it into log. And then that's the variable there we're looking for. Cargo count. In this case it says 22. If I come out of this quick and how much cargo do I have?
You have 22 items in your hold.
And it's told me I have 22 items in my hold, which is correct. And if I go in and sell something in the game, so if I just pop in to the game, go to the commodities, and we'll sell this. We'll sell 1 pesticide. Now sold that. How much cargo do I have?
You have 21 items in your hold.
And she now confirms I have 21 items. Obviously you can have a different, spoken phrase if you want to. And you can change the text and the wording in there, however you want it to be. But that's a very, very simple, quick command to see what's in your cargo hold. So, for example, you was out mining and you wanted to know how much you had in your hold. That command would tell you, which saves you having to look at another panel. Talking of mining, this is how it all got started because I wanted to do some commands for mining, and one of those was to see how many limpets I had. And so we got this one here, which is a little bit more complicated. I didn't want the command to run when we were on foot, so it does a quick check to see if I'm on foot. It just exits out the command. But it only does it if it's on the planet's surface. If you're docked in a station, the command should still run. And then we need to do a check of what's in our cargo hold to see if we actually have any limpets. We set a variable there called find item, which is only local to this command and any commands that it executes. We set it to drones because that's the internal name of the limpets, as we saw earlier. Then we want to initialize this variable here, which is found item, which we'll get to in a minute. We set that to nothing at the moment. And we want the item amount as well, which we initialize into nothing. And then we want to execute that command there, the cargo checker command. That runs, and I'll show you that in a second. When it comes back, it returns some values which are in found item amount and found item. If we have 1, it will say we have 1 item, and if it's more than 1, it will tell us how many we have. Now we go into cargo checker, which is this one there. You might be familiar with this from other commands. This is just a loop to check through a number of items. We set the loop counter to 0. And we want to loop while the cargo inventory value, which is that one there, the length is 4, and we've got the loop number there, that will start off at 0, does not contain a find item. In this case, we're looking for limpets, and the loop is less than the cargo inventory length, which is 4 again. It will keep looping. It then increments the loop counter by 1, so every time it goes through the loop, it goes up until it equals 4. In this case, we'll drop out of the loop. So with the loop, we're checking to see if the cargo inventory value, including the loop count, does not contain our item, and the loop count is less than the cargo inventory length. So every time it loops round, it starts at 0, loops round, increments it by 1. Then we're checking that value there again, which will be 1 on the second loop, 3 on the third loop, 4 on the fourth loop, at which point the loop counter will be 4, and that will equal the cargo inventory length, which in this case is 4, and the loop will finish. So if the item is being found, add it to the found variables, which is this section here. So we're now saying if the cargo inventory value, including the loop integer, contains the find item, which we're looking for, in this case limpets, set found item to cargo inventory localized name, and set found item amount to the value. So if we find limpets, it will set it to limpet and the count to 10. Else, we'll set the found item amount to 0 and the found item to not found. Now, because the limpets are called drones internally, I've had to put this little section in there that says if the find item equals drones, set the found item to limpets, otherwise it would return drones into the other command. Hopefully this makes sense. And then that way, in the how many limpets do I have command,
You have 10 limpets.
it tells me I have 10. This leads on to another command. What do I have in my cargo hold? If we go into this one here, a bit more in it, but it's similar to the limpet one. So we initialize the loop value for the counter to 0, and then we want to set the cargo length to whatever the cargo length variable is set to, in this case 4. And then I need to set that cargo length to -1 because of the way the loop's going to work. Because we're starting at the 0 here, we've got 0, 1, 2, 3. So the maximum number there is 3, but we have 4 items in the hold. And that's why I'm doing that little bit there to set the cargo length to 3 in effect. Hopefully that makes sense. And we say you have to prefix what we have in our cargo hold. Now, if the cargo inventory length equals 0, we can't have anything in our cargo hold. So it says and writes, you have nothing in your hold. And that should actually exit the condition. As there's no point executing the rest of the command, as it won't do anything. So assuming we have something in our cargo hold, which in this case we do, we start another loop, while the loop counter, which is currently set to 0, is less than the cargo inventory length. We do the loop. And then we set another variable, ~name, which is only going to be local to this command, to the cargo inventory loop numbered name. So in this case, it'll start off at 0. So we'll be setting ~name to hydrogen fuel. And it then sets the name local, in this case, to hydrogen fuel without the space. And this will make sense in a minute. Then we do a check to say if the ~name does not equal the ~name local and ~name does not equal drones, set name local to name. And that's what caused me a headache the other day when I made this command. So what we're doing in that little section there, we're setting the name and the localized name to be the same thing. If I remove the space there, what we're doing is saying, is the value of the name variable the same as the name localized variable? That's what this bit's doing here. If they're not equal, set name local to be whatever's in the name variable, because, as you can see there, there's no name localized, which causes problems. And also we need to account for the fact that limpets are called drones internally in the game. If it's not making sense, it's not the end of the world. The command still works. But it's all because of that name localized not being there for some commodities. And the fact that the plugin doesn't know about that, it remembers the previous name localized, it's not resetting anyway. So in this case, if name variable and the name local variable are not equal, we're setting it so they are, as long as it doesn't equal drones. If it equals drones, we want to set it to be the same thing. So we set name local to name localized. So that way we're getting limpet in where we need it to be. We do that section, and then we go, we want to check the cargo length now. So if the loop count equals cargo length, which is now one off. So if the loop variable equals the cargo length variable and the cargo length does not equal 0, say and. Now that's why I had to do this bit up here, -1, so we know we're on the last entry in the list. So in this bit here, if it's specifically set to limpet, we say that section, else we do that section. Then we increment the loop and it goes round again until it's read everything in the cargo hold. It looks complicated, and it kind of is, but it's the only way I could get it to work reliably. Otherwise it just became horrible. If we come out of this, what do I have in my cargo hold?
You have 4 hydrogen fuel, 3 pesticides, 4 food cartridges, and 10 limpets.
It works lovely. If I go into the game and I'll buy something else, buy some more commodities, just so we can prove that it's working. 2 atmospheric processors. Now, the only slight niggle is that the text-to-speech doesn't say some things particularly well. If I can find, there we go, bio-waste. This is the one I love. So if we buy a bio-waste. What do I have in my cargo hold?
You have 4 hydrogen fuel, 1 biowaste, 1 atmospheric extractors, 3 pesticides, 4 food cartridges, and 10 limpets.
Now you can see and hear that it didn't quite get that 100% on the biowaste and the atmospheric extractors. Because with biowaste, there's no space in it, and it's reading the atmospheric extractor's internal name rather than the localized name. So it's not perfect, but it works. So another command that I've made is a Limpet Alert check. So when you're out mining or harvesting materials, and you might want to know how many limpets you have, and we've got a command for that. How many limpets do I have?
You have 10 limpets.
We can ask that, but we can also automate it. So I've got a couple of commands here. So we've got set limpet alert and disable limpet alert. That one's just a little test one I made so I can manually set the number. So if we want to set the limpet alert, there's two ways we can do it. We can be really clever, or we can do a simple way. So this is like we haven't seen before. It's a wait for spoken response. So we've got a bit of text and a speech which says, please speak a value between 50 and 200. You can change that if you want to, but there's a little caveat that I'll get to next. And we have the wait for spoken response command, which is something new, which is a very, very handy little command. So we can put in their response. That can be text, it can be a variable, but it can also be a range of numbers. So in this case, 50 to 200. As it says on the little pop-up, this is a semicolon delimited list of responses that user can provide up to a total of 500 responses. Leave this box blank if you want to accept any response. Note that this box accepts dynamic phrases and will render any combination of tokens. As you can see, I've got 50 ... 200 enclosed in the square brackets. So you could change it to 300 if you wanted. It's up to you, but we'll leave it at 200 for the moment. And then we need to return the value of whatever's in the response into a variable, and it has to be a text variable. So I've called this Limpet Alert txt, so now it's a text variable. And then we've got a timeout of 6 seconds. Or you can have it continue on any speech. As it says there, anything which is not valid will be at invalid. So you can do a check on that. And I've set the timeout for 6 seconds. And then I want to convert the text value into an integer. So I'm just doing convert that variable there as a text into an integer called Limpet Alert, just to make life easier down the road. And then we write out the log and we say, you have set the Limpet Alert to, and then it'll be whatever the value is. And then we enable a check to true, so we know we've turned it on. Now, if you don't want to do that, you can use this one here, which is just set the value to whatever number you want. You just put the value in there. Or actually, spotted a mistake. That should be alert. Set Limpet Alert.
Please speak a value between 50 and 200.
60.
You have set the Limpet Alert to not set.
Right, so it didn't hear me properly. That's all down to the voice training. We'll give it another try. Set Limpet Alert.
Please speak a value between 50 and 200.
50.
You have set the Limpet Alert to 50.
That's the other thing with VoiceAttack. You need to have your voice training done multiple times. I need to redo mine. But what I'm going to do, just to make my life a little easier, I'm going to go and set it to 9, so I don't have to mess around too much with the limpets. So we set that to there. We now got it set to 9. If I go back into the game, if I go into the advanced maintenance, go to the limpets. How many limpets do I have?
You have 10 limpets.
We know we set the threshold to 9. So if I go below 9 limpets, I should get an alert to say you are low on limpets. So if we just go into here and we'll sell them. We'll do 9.
You are low on limpets.
So it tells us we're low on limpets now because we set it to 9. Now, if I go back into the command, that will be because in here, we're initializing the variables found item amount, and find item. And we're setting that to drones because we're looking for limpets. It does the cargo check, which we've looked at previously. I won't go through that again. And it comes back and says, if the found item amount is less than or equals to the limpet alert, in this case 9, and the found item equals limpets, and the limpet check equals true, which it was set to in the set limpet alert, it will set the limpet check to false, and then it will write and say you are low on limpets, and then it will exit. And now that way it'll only ever do it the once. And then we've got Disable Limpet Alert, which just disables the Limpet Alert and tells us it's been disabled. So there you go. That's some commands on how to query your cargo hold. I've uploaded the profile to my website, so you can download it and copy the commands into your own profile if you want to. The profile is a companion to the web series, so it's not a full profile. It's just a case of, here's some commands, this is how they work, gives you ideas and inspiration for your own commands, so you can use them as you want, but it's not a supported profile. But if you've got any questions or not sure about something in one of the commands, drop a comment below or on my Discord server, and I'll do my best to help you out. So have fun with them and let me know what you come up with in the comments. If you have any questions, comments, ideas, what anything, put them in the comments section below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. If you've enjoyed the video or found it useful, click the like button, and if you haven't already, hit the subscribe too and share the video out. Until the next one, take care and I'll see you soon. Toodles!